Hey everybody! I had the pleasure of meeting Alan Levine, who has been featured in some TED Talks and is a former instructional technologist for Maricopa Community College. He's local to Southern Arizona and is a proponent of open access, play and new media, and generally just futzing around with technology. He agreed to do a screen capture with me and for this course, and so we talked a little bit. Using a technology called appear.in. If you're interested in that, let me know and I can tell you a little bit about it. It's kind of like a Google Hangouts, but in my view it's a little simpler to use. Despite its simplicity, though, we did have some problems in the beginning of the screencast, which is why it kind of starts abruptly. So I did want to add this preface. We started talking about openness as a principle and sort of giving yourself permission to make a mistake in an online environment, which is something we take for granted in a face-to-face environment, but in the online environment we sometimes expect that everything must be perfect. Anyway, if you're interested in chatting with Alan, he's got a blog called cog.dog, and you can learn more about him. And I hope you enjoy the conversation. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Sure. For the last couple of years, I've been part of both as a participant and also as a teacher and doing some of the website building for this open course in digital storytelling called DS106. It's ds106.us.
Sure.
And it's unusual. I mean, a lot of people talk about open courses and MOOCs. This one is somewhat different in the fact that generally there's actually a course running right now at the University of Mary Washington. Students paid, to be part of this class, but all the work that students do and is done with the class is done on the open internet. So they all have their own blogs and they do their work in their own space. There's no use of an LMS. At the same time, other people who are interested in what's going on might do some of the course activities. So there's some interesting overlap between people who just want to do some practice in creating media and these students who are actually doing it for a course. And when I taught it, one part of the course that we do is we actually have our own internet radio station.
Yeah.
DS106 Radio. And so it's actually open. We give away the password. So anybody who wants to broadcast live on our internet radio station, of course, usually nobody's listening, can sort of do this. But generally when, like you were just experiencing, when you set things up, you're dealing with a lot of different windows, and sometimes you have the wrong settings and you don't have your mic connected. And so there's always this thing that happens when people go on the air. They I don't know if this is working, or and basically, things don't work out perfectly usually. And someone started calling this, we just say, I'm futzing right now, which means I'm just trying to get this thing to work. And the reason why I started talking about this is a lot of times as teachers, you feel like this expectation that you have to be perfect. And of course, it doesn't look good when you don't know how to use the technology.
And it's just to interject, man, the stakes are kind of higher in an online course than in a face-to-face course. I think if you mess up while you're in a face-to-face course, the students don't think twice about it. But man, as an English professor, if you spell one thing wrong, they're going to notice. Someone's going to notice it and call you out on it.
Yeah. And so the philosophy I have, the mistake isn't, or the problem is not making mistakes. Like, the technology will go wrong and you will do things. And if you make it clear at the front that it might not work, or this isn't doing as I'm expected, and you can sort of not panic, and then you can demonstrate that you could overcome that and figure things out. It shows also that you're human, that it's something that everybody experiences, and that it's okay. We get so caught up in the stuff having to work. When I was doing some of my consulting last month in Puerto Rico, we were talking because they have a lot of internet connectivity problems on their campus. And so the teacher was telling me, students do their presentations, they come in and sometimes the internet's not working. And I started thinking, they're setting up the expectation for the students that the technology will always be perfect. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't happen. And as a teacher, as a student, as a person, you have to be able to communicate if your technology doesn't work. And so you can't let that be the thing that stops you. And you sort of have to be able to improvise in the moment, because the thing you have to share or teach is in here. It's not on there.
Yeah.
And I was actually suggesting if I was teaching our class, I might actually tell our students, like after their first couple of presentations, at some point I'm going to turn off the internet and they're going to have to figure out how to react and deal, so they don't get so dependent and flustered on the technology. That's a little bit cruel. But I think it's really important to sort of, and it's hard because I know what it feels like when you're there and you're supposed to be giving a talk or you're leading a class and it's not working. And your first thought is, oh my God, these people think I'm stupid. So my sort of response to that is to say it before anybody else does. Like, I just made a mistake. This isn't working.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to fix it.
Well, I just, we came together talking just a little bit about sort of openness as a design principle. And I think we talked a little bit about that in your course. It seems scary to me. It might seem scary to others just to have your whole class out there on the World Wide Web for all and everyone. How do you, I mean, is that a concern for you, or is that a concern for your students at all in terms of having, the entire internet be their classroom?
Well, it's not necessarily putting everything. When MIT started doing their open courseware, giving away their course materials, the tagline was, it's the course material, it's not an MIT education. So the material is not the class experience. And so the thing is not necessarily putting everything out there. It's thinking about what is it that you could leverage that would be a gain for your students by having some of that open. So in the storytelling class, it's because other people give students feedback and sort of become like a larger community. So there's some mutual give and take. With my own work, by having stuff out there that I shared, quite often people find it and they will say like, hey, come visit, give us a talk. Or and just the fact that someone wants to reuse a photo or something like that is a little bit of, hey, I'm doing something that's worthy. So the big stopping point that people have is a couple of myths. First of all, if you just put your stuff out there on the internet, the internet's so big, chances are no one's going to see it. So it's kind of like one speck on on the sand of southern Arizona. The other part is, with my students, it's like, I'm not going to share my pictures because someone's going to steal it and make $1 million. They're going to get rich off of my stuff. Mm-hmm. Photographers have a hard time. Professional photographers have a hard time making money just off of their images. So people don't. There are horror stories of, yes, where companies have misappropriated images, but it's like one instance out of many. And so because my experience has been that everything that I've learned about using technology and teaching and creating websites, I figured that out by stuff that other people shared openly on the internet. Mm-hmm. So the internet taught me stuff. So to me, it's kind of like, this is how I pay back. So sometimes you put a lot of stuff out there, they may not have any response. It's not like you can count on like people offering you trips and speaking gigs if you share your stuff. But you sort of have to see a value in it. Instead of trying to tell my students that it was important to do it because it's a good principle, because I say so. Yeah. And I used to start out teaching Creative Commons, and it didn't make any sense to them. They would say, people are going to steal my stuff. And so I changed my strategy to not talk about it as much up front, but to build into my class activities where I would send them to certain places to find content that was licensed for reuse. And so some of the students, not all of them, would eventually say, wow, I'm able to find all this great media. I don't have to worry about copyright violation. Someone shared it with me. Maybe I'll think about doing that myself. So
it's sort of like a pay it forward kind of, the internet is my learning community kind of thing.
Yeah. And so if you can build in things where people can sort of leverage, wow, look at this place. There's a whole collection of, syllabi for chemistry. Or look at this. It's the whole, Oxford English Dictionary, So when people start seeing that other organizations or individuals are sharing their work and that they can benefit, then it becomes maybe something they can turn the corner and see, maybe there's a value if I do this. But the biggest block is, and I've done a lot of talks where I ask people why they don't share, and it comes down to a lot of things. There's a lot of fear, like it's this idea that my stuff will be stolen, one. The other is like, my stuff isn't really that good. No one's ever going to get a benefit of it. There's people out there that are so much better. I'm not worthy. So it's a lot of like self-talk before they've even done anything. And it's really interesting. A lot of it is about this fear of judgment.
Well, the catch-22 there is, if you don't participate in the community, then you won't grow as a artist or a scholar or something like that.
Yeah. And there's a great video out there. I can't remember the name of it. It's by this guy Derek Sievers, and it's basically starts out with this premise of like, my stuff isn't that worthy, and it's a little like animated 3-minute video, and more or less it all changes when one time something they do share, when they get like some recognition back, and it's like all of a sudden a validation of that someone values my work, and that's all it takes. And when we have our students, when you teach with students or faculty, and you get them to start writing about their work on a blog, and the first time they get a comment from someone they didn't know, that is like an electric moment. And countless stories of classes who are reading a certain author, and they're writing about it on their course website or their blogs, and the author actually responds. I mean, it changes everything, and it happens so often. And people are like, how do they do this? Are they reading the whole internet? No, they're Googling their name, or whatnot. But the fact that the person, I've talked to writing classes, art classes, where the sculpture that they're talking about actually responds to them, it totally shifts the whole impetus of what students are doing, because for the most part in school, your audience is your teacher. You write something, then you turn it in, and you're done. And then when your audience becomes this large potential pool, or maybe a small potential pool, it really changes everything about your motivation. And so it's still hard to make a case for that if you go in saying that people are going to have to trust you. And so you want to be able to build some things where people can kind of have that networked feedback experience.
Sure. Cool. Well, thanks for joining us, Alan. And
okay.
I probably should just kill it there just because of time length and all that.